is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Welcome back in, everybody. Another episode of One Royal Way coming at you right here on KC Sports Network, brought to you by our good friends at Emprise Bank, our partners in Possible. Super excited to have them sponsoring this show, and even more excited to be joined by the pals, Penfield, Josh Keiser. Guys, another week of spring training in the books. We're getting closer to opening day. The weather's been nice. The vibes are high and beers are flowing, as one wise Tucker D. Franklin said on Up and Adams. How are we doing?
Good. Have we checked on Tucker after the NFL Combine? Like the Combine, are the hammies tight today? Like, I need to check on our guy.
I haven't physically seen him. I talked to him via DM and audio message, ironically, but I have not physically made sure that he's okay.
We need to check on BJ too. It looked like he had a glasses casualty, and I don't know. It was all over the place from that obstacle course run that Tucker had.
Yeah, he has also got a couple more years on Tucker. I can't make too many jokes because he pays us and is gracious enough to have us here, but
I'm surprised, like under the obstacle or under the tunnel thing. I was like, low man wins. That's Tucker's finish right there.
And BJ was right there with him. Like, he was right close. I was surprised.
Caught ground on him.
Yeah, that was fun.
There's a pitchers or athletes joke in there somewhere for BJ.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. I'm surprised that next year I want to do it. I think I need to get out there. I need to go to the Combine. I just really like, obviously mixing it up with all the fancy dancy insiders and stuff would be cool, but I want to do like what they did, the obstacle course, the 40, all that stuff. That'd be fun.
I had family in Atlanta for the 96 Olympics when I was a kid, and I remember vividly, like, we did a tour of everything, but I remember the obstacle course running like it was yesterday. So that is the stuff that really sticks with you.
That's cool. We all have our different athletic pluses. Joel's a good golfer. I just like to play everything, even though I suck at it. And Josh is...
Can't wait to hear this. Go.
Yeah. I don't know. Peak meal performance is all I can think of. I don't know if you have any a sports background that you were Pee-wee star or anything like that.
I was a pretty solid kid, all around athlete growing up. I was all conference honorable mention in basketball, but we're not here to talk about basketball.
Wow.
It was like 1A slapdick basketball. So you guys have met me. My figure was not much different back then. So
fair enough. It is. Fair enough. I guess we'll talk about the pros now and talk about the Royals. A little bit of housekeeping. Royals obviously have played some spring training games over the past week since we've talked to you guys, but leading off, there was an injury situation that crept up earlier on Tuesdays. We're recording this podcast. Jordan Lyles started a B game on Tuesday, exited after fielding a grounder. Going to get reevaluated on Wednesday morning. Looks like back tightness for him, and per Annie Rogers of MLB.com, she does fantastic work. Q said that he's feeling better when he left the complex. Obviously, this is not a sound the alarms type thing, let's say, like Carlos Hernandez, where the shoulder, he's getting shut down, you're a little bit worried. This just kind of happens sometimes, so I don't think it's going to impact, and we told you guys we're going to do like a roster projection for opening day. This doesn't impact it for me, but still not ideal. But also a reason why the Royals went out and got some depth, because now if this is something that lingers, something that, he does get shut down for a week or two, it's not that big of a deal. So we'll start with Joel. Any immediate thoughts on hopefully what's a minor injury here?
Yeah, you hope it's minor just from a depth perspective. Like, this is not like if Jordan Lyles is out for a period of time, I don't think it's going to be the stinging indictment or issue that some people think it might be, but it does cause a concern with depth, at both in the rotation and in the bullpen. Kind of tests it early on, but it makes signing the free agents and making the trades that the Royals did for some of these veteran guys, and makes it hurt, that it sting a little bit less if Lyles does miss time. I do worry a little bit about it being a back injury. Back injuries don't necessarily get better. Hopefully it's just like a tightness thing and you can just move on and you don't have to worry. We're not worrying about this lingering into May or June.
Yeah, hasn't missed a lot of time in the past with back injuries by any means, so it's probably just something new. I mean, he's 33, 34.
Yeah.
time is undefeated, so the back will always go out on. Doesn't matter if you're an athlete or not; it's going to come for you. So the back is what it is. But it is interesting to kind of think like we're going to talk about the roster battles, and obviously Lyles and Lynch are the big battle up for the number 5 spot. But if one of those guys go down, you start looking at a lot of the guys that were getting cycled through that 5th spot last year, and you kind of start to wonder, like, the reason they went and got this depth was to keep those guys kind of still developing. They clearly weren't necessarily ready for that big league bullpen or big league rotation spot last year. So it'll be interesting to see how long this injury kind of lingers, but that depth could get in jeopardy pretty darn quick.
Yep, absolutely. Keeping it on the track of the roster depth, we kind of had this conversation in DM on Tuesday morning about, well, Joel made a good point about guys are going to get sent to minor league camp. You get a little bit of a clearer picture of who's going to be there, who's not, who's getting at bats, who's not. Mason Barnett, Chandler Champlain, Carter Jensen, and Luka Tresh got sent to minor league camp on Sunday. Not really any surprise for any of those guys. I don't think, not anything to dive too much into, but I just thought that it's worth bringing up for people that are trying to follow spring training and, might not see that, hey, this isn't popping up in the box score, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. Any thoughts on that?
Not really. This is kind of the way that things start to go as the calendar turns to March. Like, these guys will show up, they'll get some early run, and then by about this time is when the roster starts to get pared down. It's going to continue this way over the next couple of weeks, and probably by the time we talk next, I'd say at least you can cut the roster almost in half from where it is right now.
Yeah, there's a few of these guys that I would have liked to have seen more of, just get eyes on them, but all guys pretty much bound for minor league camp and then their assignments after a while. So 2 of those 4 being catchers is interesting a little bit, just because you always like to have a plethora of catchers in camp at the same time to make sure all the pitchers are getting their work in. But yeah, it's just is what it is.
Catcher talk is coming back, not only in the roster projection, but also at the tail end of the podcast when we discuss our nugget, our thought of the week. But the Royals did also name their affiliate award winners for 2023. I'm just going to quickly go over them. If we have thoughts, we can share, shout out this guy. I'm looking forward to more of this guy, whatever. AAA Omaha, Anthony Veneziano, Pitcher of the Year. Nick Lofton, Player of the Year. AA, Chandler Champlain, Tyler Tolbert. High A, Quad Cities, Mason Barnett, and Caden Wallace. Columbia, Frank Mazzucato, just absolutely insane there. Brett Squires had an underrated stretch that I didn't really take notice of, I guess. Surprise Royals, Felix Arande and Eric Torres, and then in the Dominican Royals, Victor Pena and Ramon Ramirez. The only one that majorly stood out to me was Squires, and I straight up did not notice that he was putting up numbers like that. 133 WRC plus, 15 home runs. That's my shout out from the list, I guess.
That was going to be mine as well. The counter to that is he's also 23 years old. And
sure.
So
you should be doing that. Yeah.
You would hope that a guy that spent that much time in college would be able to go out and have that type of production against a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds in low A. But, good for him. It's a guy that can maybe pop up out of nowhere. The Royals have had a few guys like that. I believe he was a UDFA a couple of years ago. So credit to him for putting in the work. Still struck out a fair amount there, 29%. But when he hit the ball, he did damage. I'll be curious if when they put him in Quad Cities, what he's able to do. And maybe he's the guy that kind of pops up out of nowhere as a dude, if nothing else, or depth, or maybe it's a Logan Porter type situation where he's 26, 27, still hanging around, and he gets an opportunity.
Ramon Ramirez has had a quite a helium type of season there in the DSL, so I'm excited to see him stateside. Hopefully, sometime this year. Is he like 17? Is that how old he is?
That sounds right. I don't want to lie, but that does sound right to me.
Had 122 at bats, a 444 or a 440 OBP, and a 615 slug with 8 home runs. I mean that. I'm not going to get too excited. 18. Okay, so another instance of a guy who probably needs to be putting up numbies in that DSL. Sure. So it makes sense there, but I do want to see what he can do stateside just to see if it's real. But I never want to get too excited about somebody in the Dominican Summer League until I see them stateside, and I think I'm just going to live with that rule for now.
Yeah. Seeing players with birthdays in 2005 is just like hurting my brain. I looked at some of the early digging on the 2024 MLB draft, and like the top high school players were born in February of 2006, and that hurt my brain.
Triggering.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and like something that made me feel really old the other day. And I'm not trying to piss anyone off, A, on this podcast, B, that's listening to it. But
watch your ass.
When LeBron got to 40,000 points, and I saw that, and someone like had a post and was like, when I was X years old, he was one of the best players in the NBA, and now he's 39 and doing it. Like when I was in kindergarten, the Be Like Mike thing was obviously huge back in the 90s and all that shit. We had a pamphlet. It didn't say be like LeBron, but it was something LeBron centric. And I remember it. I probably still, have like a picture of it somewhere or something like that. But still, now I'm 25, 20 years later, still probably top 10 player, like averaging 25, 7 and 7 that he's been doing for, the entire stretch. Like it's insane. And that makes me feel like I'm washed up. But yeah.
Josh, what were you doing in 2005?
I was a young lad at the University of Missouri. I probably had a Mizzou football or basketball game back in the day. Watching both those teams underperform. So that's where I was.
Joel, you're not much older than me, right? You're 27.
So I was 10. I was 9. I was 9 years old in 2005. We had just moved back to Fort Lewis, Washington. So I was out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
It dates all of us, and I'm going to keep it on track with dates here.
Don't appreciate that, guys. That is a tangent that I don't appreciate in the slightest.
We're bringing it back. The Royals, they're playing actually as we're recording this podcast, if I recall correctly. I looked on the box score earlier and saw it was a 0-0 game. They did play a handful. They beat the Mariners. They lost to the White Sox. They beat the Athletics. They beat the Guardians, and then beat the Reds. Like the Royals in spring training, people know how this goes. They do well, and they get a little bit of hope up, and this guy does well, and the team, like, you can only take so much from a spring training record. Like, I think the individual performances are a lot more important than the overall team thing, and really, there's not much better example of that than Tuesday, I think, because as Joel just said in the chat, I'm just going to let you take it, Joel, actually. We'll just, if you have a thought on the recent, 5 games, you can, but I think Tuesday's a good example of why that individual performance is important.
Yeah, one of the guys that threw tonight, Brady Singer, looked great in his 3 innings, 3 strikeouts, and then Alec Marsh comes in for 2 innings in the 5th and the 6th, and 4 strikeouts in 2 innings, only 1 hit, no earn, and Josh is putting in the chat as well that he hit 97.
Apparently that's what Andy Rogers just said, yep.
Well, that's noteworthy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So and this is a little tease, but I do not have Alec Marsh on my roster projection for opening day in one of those bullpen spots. I might. He has looked really good this spring. The strikeout numbers are there. He walked some guys early, but it seems like he's kind of pared that down a little bit. And if he's touching upper 9s with his deal stuff, with his secondary stuff, that'll tick up a little bit in the bullpen as well, he could be lethal out of the bullpen. That's an intriguing name to watch over the next couple of weeks.
I don't want to give up on him as a starter, but that is very intriguing. I am very interested in that. I mean, Cole Reagan's had another gnarly start.
That was the only point I had.
Reports from him, from scout stuff, talking about a left-handed DeGrom, and that was insane. That's what we're talking about right now with the Cole Reagan type, right? I am the Kool-Aid is inching very close to my lips, and I just can't fit. It's just so
I won't drink it. I won't do it for the full team, but I will mainline an IV bag of Cole Reagan's Kool-Aid. Like I told it.
You heard it. Joel's picking him to win the division and make the playoffs, which we've also chat about later in the podcast.
Yeah, we may hit that. A couple other noteworthy things. The Royals scored 13 runs in a game that Shane Bieber and Emmanuel Clase both pitched in. They didn't give up the runs, but they did it, so I'm going to say it. Daniel Lynch went, was it Sunday? Sunday. They were off Monday.
Yeah, that sounds right.
3 innings, 2 earns, 3 hits, 2 walks, and 1 strikeout, which might be the most Daniel Lynch line of the Daniel Lynch lines. David Lesky's down there. If you're not following Dave Lesky, go do that immediately. But he mentioned that it looks very Daniel Lynchy still out there. So we might talk about that a little bit later. And then a lot of people, Andy Rogers did a story, Jalen Thompson did a story about Nick Lofton's home run in front of his 1 month old son, which was pretty cool. So those were kind of the noteworthy things that I took away this last week, I should say.
I was going to mention Briggins, and I was going to bring up Daniel Lynch. So, Joel, do you have any other game-specific thoughts?
Not necessarily. It's still tough when there are not many games on TV you're able to watch, so it's a lot of box score watching. But Alec Marsh jumped out to me because he's been pitching since I've been recording, so just check the box score real quick. And 4 punchies and 2 shutout innings is nothing to sneeze at there, especially with what Brady Singer did earlier today as well.
Yep, 100%. We are going to talk about Alec Marsh. We're going to talk about Brady Singer. We might talk about Cole Riggins. I have a feeling he will be mentioned in our opening day roster projection that we are going to jump into right after this break.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
One Royal Way, Jordan Foote, Josh Keiser, and Joel Penfield. The guys are back for another episode. We're going to talk about the opening day 26-man roster. I am excited to, ironically, go over a list that we chatted about earlier in the day. Not a ton up for grabs. Like, there's still plenty of names to mention, but really a lot of players set in their roles, while simultaneously some good additions on the fringes, a guy coming back from injury, several bounce-back candidates. So still really intriguing. Do we want to break this up? I have mine as infield plus utility. Do we want to do that right off the bat and then jump outfield, jump rotation, jump bullpen?
Yep, love it.
Okay, sweet. So let's do catcher. I think the top guy we all are in agreement with, Salvador Perez, is probably going to make the cut and get through with the Royals. He was not great last year, as people know, but still, he's going to bring the power. I think if he can remain durable throughout the season, which as he turns, I believe, 34 early this year, I think, 34, that's going to get probably more and more difficult, but also the Royals have insulated the roster with some depth. I think he could, do some DHing. He could even move over to first base a little bit. That gets a little wonky with how many pieces they have. But we're all in agreement there. I'll pitch it to Josh first. Any thoughts on Perez? And then we can go with the second catcher spot.
It was interesting, just jumped out to me that in that MLB Network preview of the 30 teams in 30 days or whatever it is now, they interviewed Salvi, and he was talking about wanting to play, if not catch, 130 games this year, which is quite a lofty goal. Salvi's the man, and he's tough as nails, so he could get to it, but he also mentioned being the backup first baseman. Not a obvious backup first baseman currently. There could be, depending on what you think about Nick Pratto and Nick Lofton, but Salvi kind of thinks of himself as the backup first baseman, and I thought that was a bit telling. But Salvi is the man. I'm curious to see if he remains in that cleanup spot, but I would bet so.
Yeah, I think Salvi playing 130 games, if he's healthy, absolutely. Catching, absolutely not. He's not catching 130 games. The Royals are not going to let him do that. Like they let him do that in his prime. Totally understandable because of how good he was. But he's just not that same guy anymore. So DHing him and letting him play first base every once in a while, or letting him start a game at catcher and then bringing in Fermin or somebody like that late in the game, substitute, make him either the DH or put him at first base. You want to keep his bat in there. But there's no way you can let him. Like, if he catches 95 games, I think that's perfectly fine. 95 to 100, I think that's a fair number for him at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm with that. This might be one of the first spots that we can disagree / have a dialogue on, I think. I have Freddie Fermin maintaining the primary backup catcher spot, and Josh, I don't want to steal your thunder for something we'll talk about later. So I'm just going to say he was good last year as a backup. He played 70 games, so it was worth 1.5 wins, 108 WRC plus, hit 281. Like, just a very, very, very solid backup that really, there were some tweets mid-season like, man, should they just, platoon them, or should Salvi be sitting more? Like, is he battling through an injury? Just give Fermin more time, see what you have. I think even with him not getting premier at-bats really a ton at all in spring training, and we'll cover that more in depth towards the end of the show, I still think he's done enough to be the backup. I don't think that any prospects are threatening him, and even with Austin Nola coming in, he does have an option. So, Joel, do you think that he's the backup? Do you still have him as catcher number 2 on your list?
I still have him as catcher number 2. I don't have Austin Nola I don't have them carrying a third catcher.
Okay.
And to me, it's just as simple as what both of them did last year and what they're projected to do this year. Like, Austin Nola was flat out bad last year in 50 games in San Diego. Slash 146, 260, 192 slug for a 38 weighted runs created plus -1 F4. He's projected this year. Steamer has him projected 249, 324, 360. And it's only in 11 games. Zips has him at 78. Okay, I'll use Zips. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
78 games, 16% K rate, 260, 340, 366, 94, and a full win. Steamer has Freddie Fermin at 254, 317, 404 in 82 games, 94 weighted runs created plus, 1.2 F4, 9 home runs. And he's 4 years younger. Like, Freddie Fermin is a older dude in terms of just now establishing his career, but he's 29. Austin Nola's 34. Like, I would just rather have the younger dude around that I think established himself as a backup catcher and a solid. And he had an over 100 WRC plus as a catcher. That's just not. There are very few dudes in the league that are doing that right now, with offense kind of at a premium at that position. So to have a backup that is not complete dead weight when he gets to the plate is a huge asset, especially on a day where Salvador Perez isn't playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. And JJ did come out and say that when they signed Nola, that Fermin was the backup backstop. So I think that the depth chart will say that, yeah, Fermin will be the guy. And the Zips DC, the depth chart version of Zips projections, does have Fermin at 53 games and Nola only at 11. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Nola might catch a little bit more than 11 games, just because I don't think Salvi is going to be there for 139 games like they have him in there. But yeah, I think we'll see Nola a little bit more, but I think Fermin's the guy moving forward.
I do think this guy is going to be there for 139 games, and I know that he hasn't necessarily proven to be the guy that's going to do that, but I am optimistic about his health this season. Vinny Pasquantino coming back from the shoulder injury. What I found interesting, and this isn't like a groundbreaking thought or anything or analysis, but from the beginning of May until he played his last game of the season, he slashed 220, 281, 386. Like, he just wasn't right straight up. 77 WRC plus, still had like a 103 on the season. He was still, overall in those 61 games, a respectable player, but like compared to what he showed the year before, obviously not the same. I'm giving him a pass for it. I think the prospect pedigree he showed, and then when he came up, obviously, and played really well, and then 2022, like I think he's the only pure first baseman I have on my list. And like, of course, other guys will mix and match, and we'll get to the utility section, but Vinny Pasquantino is going to get the majority of the at-bats. He's going to get the majority of the fielding reps. I think that that's a pretty open and shut case for the most part.
Yeah, he never had any sort of off-season procedure from the shoulder injury he had in 2022. Yeah. So it was basically just a re-aggravated thing that got worse. And so now his shoulder is fully healthy for the first time in like a year and a half. He seems fired up, ready to go. Some of the stuff that he showed this offseason, like the bat speed, looked like it was there a lot more than it was at various points early on last season. He's had kind of a slow spring, but if considering he didn't play the vast majority of last season. He's getting his legs underneath him, kind of seeing big league pitching again for the first time in a while. So I'm not going to be concerned about any spring training numbers for him. I know he'll be right once the real bullets start flying. No, I'm excited. I thought he was going to be an all-star last season. I still think he has that upside as one of the better hitters in the sport offensively. So, we'll see what he does, but I'm excited to have him in there.
Best pure hitter on this team. I think I'm very excited to see what he can do in the middle of this lineup for sure.
Yep, I agree. Second base, this is where it can get a little bit hairy with we think these players play a primary position, but also they're under the utility section. So we'll sort through all that as we keep it moving here. Michael Massey is my starter at second base, and the expected stuff, 229 batting average. The expected was 260. The slug was a 51-point difference. He played well in the second half relative to how he started. 597 OPS in the first half, 705 in the second half. I've got Mike Massey as the guy, quote unquote, at second base. Now, with that said, several utility players that can get reps from him, and if he starts off the year pretty bad, I think that leash is going to be pretty short. But are we all in agreement that he is the starting second baseman at least?
I think so, for sure. At least to start the year. But again, if he has the same sort of April that he did last year, then Nick Lofton or Adam Frazier or Garrett Hampson are going to get those at-bats pretty quick.
I kind of thought that I took a perspective of this exercise as it's time to win, and we're not here to assess anymore. So I think I agree with the part where Massey is the everyday second baseman going into it, but I think that there will be a very real time where Adam Frazier will be taking a lot of left-handed pitcher at-bats away from Mike Massey if he doesn't show that he can hit lefties a little bit better than he's shown in the past. But I'm not giving up on Michael Massey anymore. I think he could absolutely be the guy and prove that he is the guy, but it's just an emphasis on it's time to go. So we're here to win. We're not here to wait around for people to develop. We got to go.
Yep, I'm in agreement. Michael Garcia at third base. We all like Michael Garcia. He was worth almost 2 wins last year. He was 98th percentile, outs above average. Now, he did fade a little bit down the stretch of the season. The WRC plus in July was 94, 80 in August, 73 to close out the season. You can attribute that to a lot of stuff. You can attribute part of it to luck. You can attribute part of it to just the sample sizes varying, part of it being up at the big leagues and getting through a long season for the first time. Endless possibilities there. Played very, very well. Ever since the end of the regular season in big league action. So I think, again, an open and shut case, kind of like at first base, a guy that looking to put the pieces back together, I think, and remind people of the initial impression that they left. And he's the clear-cut starter over at the hot corner.
And he had a fantastic winter ball stint in Venezuela. Showed some more power, looked like he was driving the ball a little bit more. Maybe a couple of swing tweaks have gotten in there, and then he's been awesome in the spring so far for the Royals. So if he brings not only the production, but then some of the flair and the fire that he was playing with down in Venezuela, and he talked about that, I'm going to bring that this year. I want to be that guy. If he can be that sort of clubhouse spark plug dude,
swag master,
the swag guy with a little bit of swagger at top of the lineup, you need guys like that. And I think also something this team lacked at times last year was just that one dude that can get everybody fired up. Yeah. That's what those teams that went to the World Series had. We talked about Hosmer last week. That's what he provided a lot of times. Was the
curator of vibes.
Yes. Yes. Well, we'll go with vibes.
Someone else goes by the curator of vibes, and I just can't think of who it is. It's in someone's bio.
Chief executive vibes guy.
Yeah.
Wasn't Garcia the guy that he was the one who hit the home run that started the big brawl there?
Yes.
I can give me brawls, man. Give me some emotion. Give me some zap this team, bring him back to life. He could be that guy. I'm into it. But the other part of this is I think him and MJ are the two guys that are going to be the catalyst for this lineup to really be able to go over the edge. I think Bobby is going to be the superstar. Vinny's going to be the best hitter. Salvi's going to hit a lot of dingers. The other guys might fill in, but I think that Garcia and MJ have to be the guys that really, really step up and make that next step in their develop to really transform this offense into one that's going to contend and scare some pitching staffs moving forward. So I really hope that he does turn around, become that third baseman of the future. And if he doesn't, we could be really, really talking about what the future is for Maikel Garcia as a Royal moving forward.
100%. If either of those guys really struggles immensely out of the gate or halfway through the season or whatever, and some possible replacements are, playing well in their limited sample size, they're going to lose reps to them. And one of those is Adam Frazier. That's more of the second base thing than anything else, I believe. Do we all have him making the opening day roster?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I figured there's not
too.
Yes.
So
yep.
He kind of falls into I think he's predominantly going to be infield, but he falls into kind of a utility-ish role.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
Garrett Hampson also falls into the utility role. He had a 379 BABIP last year. He had a career high WRC plus for like a somewhat complete season. 2019 to 2022, I'm sorry, people. He was worth 0.2 F4. He had a 62 WRC plus. I think he's more that guy than he was last year. Now, still, with 98th percentile sprint speed, positional versatility, can play different things on defense. You can have that player on your team. You can have that player in your lineup 35 times a year. I don't know what the magic number is, but
They're not being many.
Exactly. I'm not trying to dog on Garrett Hampson, but the less he plays, I think it's better for the team because it means that other guys are doing their job and on top of their shit. So with that said, though, I do have him breaking camp with the team. Is that a controversial take, or do we think that's a pretty foregone type deal?
No, he's making the team. So Matt Duffy played 79 games last year.
79?
He played 79. Gosh. Over under that for Garrett Hampson.
Under.
I think he's under. I think it's
even if he comes in as a defensive replacement, pinch runner, still under, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Appearances not counting.
Okay. Let's go with because I think he'll get pinch run, maybe a pinch hit or late game substitution. Over under 50 and a half or 49 and a half starts for Garrett.
Under. That's 1 out of every 3 games. There's no chance. Barring somebody getting injured or 2 guys getting injured, there's no way.
Well,
it's going to happen
under,
now, by the way, because I said that.
I'm going to say under because I don't think he's breaking camp with the team, boys. I think Nick Lofton is going to be that utility guy.
I have Lofton there as well.
Yeah, I
do too.
Garrett Hampson is striking out just in 16 plate appearances, but he's striking out 44% of the time. Can't be doing that, and definitely not on the Royals team, and definitely not if you're not hitting home runs. So,
and he's always been a pretty high strikeout guy, 26%, right?
Well,
it's up there.
He was also getting walks during that time most of the time too. So if he's not doing that, then I don't know what you're doing here. I don't think you do anything well at that point. But he did start out last season with a lot of strikeouts. So he did come down into and conversely his WOBA went skyrocketing at that point. But I still think Nick Lofton takes over that utility role. Like I said, I took the perspective of it's time to go. And if Garrett Hampson is striking out 44% of the time in spring training, then he ain't making the club. $2 million, they did sign him. They'll eat that. They signed Ryan O'Hearn. They signed Franmil Reyes last year, both the big league contracts, and they just ate that money. So it's not that they can't, and not that they shouldn't be afraid to if he's not performing. And you got Nick Lofton, you got other guys here that could potentially help your team win games. I'm not seeing it. So Garrett Hampson's officially on watch, and I'm not afraid to put Nick Lofton in that spot.
I dig it. Really, really quickly, because I know we have to move on to outfield, and then we have to get jumping on pitching. I have Lofton making it too. That might have been a clerical error on the math on my part, but
here we go. Flip, flop, flip, snip, snap, snip, snap.
I have both of them making it Hampson and Lofton in addition to Frazier. So if you're not carrying the direct backup first baseman, you're not carrying the direct backup third baseman, I think you can afford to have that little bit of extra, and that leaves you 8 infield / utility guys. So I have Lofton sneaking through. I know that you could argue getting him more consistent at bats in AAA to start the season would make sense. He has the options, obviously, but he could also factor into the outfield, and that is a spot where we've talked about MJ Melendez quite a bit. First half of the season, not very good. Second half of the season was really, really good. Made a couple of minor adjustments. It seemed to be working. Went from striking out a ton to still striking out, but not quite as much. Was getting on base a lot more. The power was fantastic. He played 148 games last year. Like, he was out there. It just wasn't always great. The defense reportedly still seems to be a focal point. Like, something that, like, the way it was worded of him getting adjusted to stuff, but like still needing to. It's just taking him longer than most players, it seems. And that's okay. That's not saying like he doesn't have instincts or whatever. He's a good natural athlete. That is all to say MJ Melendez is my starting left fielder. Is that what everybody else says?
Yep. Like that.
Okay.
What I have to keep telling myself is not everybody is Alex Gordon and just turns into the best left fielder ever. Like, there's more. As long as he is passable and doesn't do the Edward Olivares frying pan glove thing, then
We'll be fine.
We're fine. Yes.
Can we jump to right field before we go to center field? I feel like that's a more interesting discussion. Center field.
Yes.
Yes.
Hunter Renfroe, starting right fielder. Yeah.
Yes.
Josh.
Yes.
Okay. I'm interested. Go ahead.
I kind of have to include the Nelson Velasquez talk here because
He's the backup there. Yep. For me.
Yeah, but I also wonder if he's not potentially the starting right fielder. I think that athletically, I think he is a bit better than Hunter Renfroe. He showed some stuff in the winter league that he was in.
Yeah.
He has decent metrics in center field. So he's obviously athletic enough to be able to. Yeah. That was prior to the trade. I remember thinking about it. So I was like, no way he's the center fielder, right?
Unless
my best
it's like that.
Taylor. I think you got to talk that conversation, but I do think that Hunter Renfroe and Nelly Velasquez are probably your right fielder / DH for most games.
Yeah, I agree with that. Renfroe in 2021 and 2022 was worth like 4.6 FWAR combined. Like, he was a good player there. Last year, 92 WRC plus, only hit 233, came back down to earth a little bit. And I'm perfectly fine if that is what the Royals get out of him and it's, let's say, 100 WRC plus and he's just out there. That's okay. At the price point, not going to break them per se. Velasquez, 14 home runs, almost like 580 slugging percentage last season in 40 games. He was absolutely unreal. There are some red flags with him. There are also some really, really green ones that Jorge Soler is the lazy cop, but also the fun one of like, this guy's going to just go out there with, he's going to be swinging and he's going to be hitting the ball really, really hard when he does connect. Both of those guys are going to make the team. And whether it's DH, right field, flip-flop, whatever, Velasquez, if not the starting right fielder, a little bit susceptible to losing some DH at-bats to a Nick Lofton, a Salvador Perez, a Freddie Fermin, something like that. But also, that's kind of the nature of the beast in big league baseball and the Royals this season. So left field, we're in agreement. Right field, we're in agreement. Who do you two have? We'll start with Josh. I'm kicking it back to you as not your starting center fielder, because we've had these discussions before. I think we all technically have the same guy, but who do you think the Royals opening day starting center fielder is?
I chalk this up as a lock that it's Kyle Isbell.
I think it's a foregone conclusion that it's Kyle.
Totally agree.
I mean, he's having a good spring, so I don't think he's done anything to lose that job, and obviously the defensive metrics are there. I think it's a lock that Kyle Isbell is the starting center fielder and probably should be. I mean, Drew Waters had a decent start. He's hitting he's got one home run, a couple extra base hits, striking out half the time in his PA's problem. So that's been the MO for Drew Waters. And if he doesn't step up, then maybe you're talking about Dairon Blanco at that point, which I also have Dairon Blanco making the team on my cut. So spoiler alert, but I do think Kyle Isbell is the lock for center field at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a foregone conclusion. Kyle Isbell is your starting center fielder. Like, the idea of Drew Waters is better than Drew Waters in practice. And I think that's just kind of where we are at this point. And that's not me trying to revisionist history, the trade that the Royals made for him. Thought it was a worthy swing and a fine opportunity to go and get him. But I just don't think it's going to work out like we maybe thought. And, Kyle Bell's fine if he hits his weight. And by that, I mean like an 85 or a 90 weighted runs created plus. He plays good enough center field defensively. Like he's solid, not Lorenzo Cain amazing, but holds his own out there. To me, it's just fine. Like I'm okay with running Kyle Bell out there for 130 something games in center and letting it rock there.
Yep. No, I agree.
While we're talking about the outfield, Tyler Gentry just knocked the absolute crap out of a ball tonight. Our old friend Dicky Love.
Oh man, yeah,
left a high fastball a little bit too close to the zone.
If I'm making the team, I'm giving Drew Waters a month with as many at-bats and appearances in center field as I can just to find out what you have in him. It's sink or swim. And I know 1 month, it could be fool's gold, or it could be, hey, he had a rough month and the next 30 games would have been better, whatever it is. I just want a final answer on him. And unfortunately, I don't think anyone's ever going to get that really at this point, because Kyle Bell's not a bad player. Kyle Bell is a fine player. He's a good defender. The bat is what it is, but after he got back from injury, so the WRC plus was 75 overall. He posted a little bit better walk rate once he got back. The WRC plus was 83. He was only striking out 18% of the time. Kyle Bell, perfectly fine player. The Royals can get by with him at the bottom of their lineup. If he is their worst hitter or second worst hitter, they can still be okay. I have Dairon Blanco as the backup for him. I don't have Drew Waters making the team to start. I think he's going to be in AAA. Injury will inevitably happen. He'll be back. He'll get some playing time. But Blanco, man, he played 69 games. Nice little sample size for him. 258, 324, 452 slash. He was worth a win. 330 BABIP. So like the age is a concern. The luck slash sample slash what's real, what's not is a concern. But I think he did enough to earn it. I think he's a good defensive replacement. I think he can bring the experience, the pedigree, the maybe not consistency, but more than what Drew Waters can do on a pinch basis.
He's still he's a good base runner. He's a really good fielder. Yep. So he can, I think he would, as much as you can thrive from a guy playing once a week and getting in a game maybe another 1 or 2 times, I think he would thrive in that role much better than a Drew Waters would. And at this point with Dairon Blanco, he's 30. He's not how many years he has left of pro ball. Sure. Who knows? Sure. There's a longer runway for Drew Waters, either in Kansas City or elsewhere. Where
he needs to play.
He needs to play. He needs to go get everyday at bats. And if that means he has to go down to Omaha and be the first man up with an injury or production, then so be it. But I'm cool with having Dairon Blanco there. I think he surprised me with what he was able to do with the bat. I know it was a small sample. However, I was very impressed with what I saw. And the dude is just so damn fast. It's ridiculous. And he's a fun player to watch and a good guy to root for.
Yep. Yeah, he also has
a guy for the perfect time. Yep.
No, absolutely. I was going to say that. Do we all have the same 1 through 4 in the rotation? I mean, the order might be a little bit different, but are we thinking the same 4 of Lugo, Waka, Riggins, and Singer?
Yep.
Yeah, I do want to go back one time, mention one guy real quick.
Sure.
Nick Pratto deserves to be mentioned for the spring that he's having right now. He can absolutely work his way into the conversation, the opening day starting position. And I think it could be at the expense of the Nelson Velasquez spot, because I think you can start with 4 regular outfielders between Melendez, Isbell, Renfroe, and then Blanco, and then have guys like Hampson and Frazier, Nick Lofton potentially be able to supplement your outfield spots and get plenty of run for Nick Pratto coming out of the DH spot, coming out of the first base spot.
I like Nick Pratto, but I would rather see him get 6 weeks of at-bats in Omaha, where I see him not take every pitch with 2 strikes that's not right down the middle. I want to see whatever changes he's made to his approach to be a little more aggressive. I want to see that in practice in Omaha rather than in Kansas City.
Because that was an emphasis of his.
Yep.
And if it is an emphasis and he turns around and is closer to what he was at the end of 2021 in AAA, where he was hitting everything and seemed like he had it all figured out, then cool. But the guy that is so passive that we've seen in Kansas City for basically a year and a half, of games, to me, it's not worth it. At least to start the season when you already have, you kind of know what you're going to get with Nelson Velasquez. I feel like there is a mystery box with Nick Pratto that I don't know if you want to open a season, especially coming out the gate. It's going to be tough. Like, I would rather have Nelson Velasquez there because I at least know what I'm going to get.
I think you can absolutely make the same argument against Nelly Velasquez too. I think everybody's just assuming that his slug is going to come down, but not that much. But it really could. I mean, the swing and miss stuff is there. And with Pratto, it's an emphasis on his approach to become more aggressive because in 2023, 46% of his plate appearances ended in a strikeout or a walk. And so far in spring, granted, very small sample size, but only 13% of his at-bats have ended in a strikeout or a walk. So I do believe that there is some kind of thing happening towards that approach, and right now he's seeing success from it.
I like it. We all have, yes. Number 5. Who do we got? 1 through 4 is the same. They're going to be different orders for people. Whatever. The first 4 games they play are going to be the same 4 guys that we all have now. Assuming Jordan Lyles is healthy for the beginning of the regular season, which, we have no reason to think otherwise as of right now. So until we get told that, or Wednesday morning after we've already recorded this, something changes. Do we have him or presumably, I'm trying to think, Daniel Lynch on El Zerp, some surprise candidate? Do we have anybody else up there?
I have Lyles. I just think that's where it's going to go.
I do too.
Begin the year.
Yep.
But again, like we've talked about for most of the offseason, instead of asking Jordan Lyles to be your number 3 starter or your number 2, you're asking him to be your 5, which is get us through the rotation get us through the lineup a couple of times, don't get murdered, and save the bullpen.
And get out.
Yeah.
Yes. Get in, get out, or get run over, man.
Give us a 5. Don't give up a billion runs. Save the bullpen a little bit. And we'll turn it over to Reagan tomorrow and go win a ball game. Like, if that's what it needs to be, then okay.
Instead of a win day, he's just going to be a survive day.
Yeah, like
but
for the most part, like
that's your 5.
Unless you're the Dodgers, like that's your number 5.
Yes, that's reality.
For like 29 other teams, it is like it's Robert Downey Jr. Tropic Thunder. You're just trying to survive the day. Yeah.
That's the thing. Like I do think, and I've called it. I called it a while ago that Lyles could probably have a bounce back year if he gets the Greinke treatment, and I think that could actually be the case. He's been tinkering with stuff, tinkering with the curveball. He threw a lot of cutters in his last appearance. Apparently, he was working out with tread, trying to get more velo, which is interesting. That could be an interesting development, and could also be why his back's a little tight right now. If Lynch is the guy that he was last year, then he's still a pretty solid 5 guy. I think this is a decent situation.
Insert what I said about Jordan Lyles to Daniel Lynch.
Correct.
It's the same thing.
If you're like, ooh, Daniel Lynch, he's close to a quality start. If you're getting that from your 5 guy and that's your positive take from him each week, then that's a win, I think, at that point. Mm-hmm. So as long as, Lyles probably comes closer, I would probably roll the dice on Lyles having a quality start before I would roll the dice on Daniel Lynch. Just because I don't think Daniel Lynch could get to 6 innings. I'm not sure that Lyles can only give up 3 earned after 6 innings. So
yes,
it's easy to take back on either side. But the fact that Daniel Lynch doesn't have many changes so far, he talked to Preston Farr and the Farms of Fountains that he didn't really have any big tinkering going on. He just wanted to do what he was doing better and maybe add a little velo. He was talking about getting back up to the mid to high 90s, which I don't remember him hitting that for a long time. So that's quite a goal to hit. And if he is able to do that, giddy up. But until I see it, I think it's Jordan Lyles' 5th spot.
Daniel Lynch is like the pitcher version of Drew Waters for me, almost.
Yeah.
Like where you can see it, the idea is there. You get little sample sizes of it, you get a stretch of it, you get 3 weeks, you get a month, and you're like, man, this guy has the goods, this guy has the fundamental tools to do it, he has the pedigree, and then something happens. He gets banged up, or this guy supplants him, or gets shelled because of this, that, and the other. With that said, I'm going to spoil it. I have him making the bullpen to begin the year and still sticking around with the team. How many locks do we have in the bullpen? I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, and by a technicality, I guess a fifth. And you can probably guess who that technicality is. How many locks do you guys think for the bullpen there are?
I got 4.
4 locks. Okay, so I'd probably just...
I'd say 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Will Smith, yeah.
Yep.
Chris Stratton.
Yep.
Yep.
John Schreiber, who was just acquired via trade recently.
Yep.
Nick Anderson.
Yep.
I have him
There's my
fringy, but I think he's going to make it.
Okay. And then I have Matt Sauer just because of the Rule 5
Yeah.
thing. Like, I think he's just going to be,
Yeah.
even if he doesn't necessarily deserve it, not saying that that's the case, but I think that it's going to happen.
Yeah. I think they're going to find a way to protect him again.
Yeah.
I think he could maybe keep him in the mop-up role. I mean, maybe still keep him a little bit stretched out to be able to be the swing man to come in and get you 2 or 3 innings at a let's call it an 8-run lead and protect that 8-run lead that they're going to have.
He started 13 of 14 games with the Yankees AA affiliate last year. 83 strikeouts to 29 walks, 3.42 ERA. He's going to skip AAA altogether, like just because of how this thing worked out. But I think his fastball slider combo could play. Like, and I know that,
And it ticks us in the bullpen,
yes,
probably.
yeah. I think it's going to be interesting. Like Matt Sauer, I don't know what he's going to be, but I do think I know where he's going to be. And again, a lot of that's because he's a Rule 5 draft pick. If he was just a normal Royals prospect, he'd be in that tier of, well, you know, he could make his debut sometime with the team this year, whatever. But that 5, and obviously Will Smith and Chris Stratton, the patented, heralded free agent signings during the offseason. John Schreiber brought over. We talked about him, it was last week, correct? In that we don't know, we're not expecting 2022, but we're expecting pre-injury partially, I guess, 2023, where he was still good, just not dominant like he was the year before. And then Nick Anderson's just Nick Anderson, I think.
Yep. And he has back-end closing experience too. So
Yes.
I think that matters. I think the Royals having a lot of guys with that experience does matter. The other guys I have in the bullpen are, I still have John McMillan. I know that the injury thing is a little odd, but I think if he's healthy, then he's going to be in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have James MacArthur as well. And then I have Daniel Lynch. I have, just like on the fringe, I have Alec Marsh, Anhel Zerpa. Those are like first due.
Zerpa's such a tough one. Zerpa's brutal to.
But he can fit in the mop-up role.
Yes.
And he's going to get you, he's going to get you a ground ball. Like, he's not going to punch a lot of dudes out, but if you need a ground ball, there's a very good chance he's going to be able to get you one.
Yeah. And I mentioned that Sauer could be the mop-up guy, and if that's a potential fit for Matt Sauer, then I would rather that be the case and you keep guys stretched out in the starting role, like Lynch, keep him in Omaha, keep him stretched out just in case Lyles gets blown up. Keep Zerpa stretched out, Bolin, Marsh, all those guys that are kind of quad A guys at the moment. Keep them stretched out because they're going to need those depth innings from starters at some point. So I'm interested in keeping him around. I had McMillan kind of not breaking camp with him. I think his slow start might be a little bit tougher to justify it, but he's still got time to get there. In his place, I went Will Klein, having a really good, really good spring so far, but he hasn't seen very good opponents. His opponent quality score on BREF is a 4.8, which is like the equivalent of a single A guy. So he's not, hasn't seen much, but no earned runs, no hits, 2 walks and 6 strikeouts. Command was his issue in AAA last year. His 5.66 ERA, but has one of the best fastballs in the system, has one of the best cutters in the system. and he was a bit hittable. So far that has not been the case. I do love me some Will Klein, already on the 40-man roster, so it doesn't require a move. So I'm kind of in on him. And then Sam Long, the non-roster invitee, left-handed as well, having a really good spring so far. 4 innings, no earned, 7 strikeouts to 1 K. 7 strikeouts to 1 walk and no hits over his. Has a little bit better opponent quality score, is 7.4. So still has stuff to show, but with this current iteration of it, there's not a lot of lefties in this bullpen that are in the mix. I think Will Smith is definitely going to be the main lefty, but he's going to probably be closer to the back of the bullpen. So if you still want to throw some matchup guys out there, I think a guy like Sam Long could be that guy. So we'll have to see how about that. A lot of his stuff is more vertical oriented, like off speed and vertical. Yeah. So if he could get some more side to side, I'd wonder what they could kind of unlock with him. But we'll see. But I do have him potentially making a spot.
I've got a bunch of thoughts. Just I didn't want to leave specific people out, and I know we have injury situations too. So I'm just gonna honorable mention / shout out / cover a handful of guys, and then we can jump to closing thoughts if we choose to. Walter Pennington, Joel talked about him last week. That was really interesting. He is close. I think he's on the fringe there. Anthony Veneziano is in that group of prospects where you can label him quad A. You can say, I think he just needs to start. Yes, we like Anthony Veneziano.
Love.
That's a nice little effect. Okay. I didn't know that was possible on StreamYard. For our audio listeners, a heart overlay graphic popped.
You're a squirrel.
Luis Sessa, who had 3 strikeouts in 1 inning recently. That was interesting. Producer Nick said it's a Mac camera thing. On FaceTime, I knew that was possible. I didn't know it was a call thing, which is awesome. 2 players that we didn't mention, and if anyone cares for that, I'm not sure why you would. I have Lynch, MacArthur, and McMillan as my final 3 in the bullpen, so we're all kind of in the same ballpark. Jake and Carlos Hernandez. Now, Hernandez is shut down, TBD. I just don't feel great vibes-wise about that, so it could change. By the next episode, we could hear more about his injury, and maybe he's responding well to, I believe it was a cortisone shot. Does that sound correct, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see about that, and then Brent's I believe he was in Annie's projection, and I don't blame Annie one bit. I think there's a ton of reasoning behind that, and I think that he absolutely could break camp with the team, but I just think that he either needs more time to get back in the swing of things or needs I don't even want to imply a change in scenery because I don't think it's an organizational thing whatsoever, but he just needs something else other than, I think, breaking camp with the team and being thrust into action immediately and stuff like that.
What's his options situation? Anybody know off the top there?
I'll pull up the old fan.
He has 3 options.
Yeah. Oh, sick. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Go pitch in AAA, but
that is
not no insults at all. Yeah,
genuinely shocked that he has 3. Okay.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
They paid him to rehab last year, so it would make sense. I think that they see something in him, and he could use some more seasoning down in Omaha and try to get that command back. But he was pretty good for him whenever he was healthy. So there's something there.
Yep. All right, we're going to do Nuggets of the week and get out of here. Sound good?
Do it.
All right, I got Seth Lugo's breaking ball. I just read an Annie article that, again, I read all of her stuff. She just does fantastic work. She's down there all the time during spring training, regular season, lots of good stuff. Lugo, basically, he was upfront about kind of having nerves in his first start of spring training, and then chalking up the lack of curveball command to the dry air and the nerves. So I don't think it's anything to worry about whatsoever. I'm barely even keeping an eye on it, but I would refer you to that article that was good. Briefly touching on getting his spring training going. Obviously, the Royals prized off-season signing, not named Bobby Witt Jr., who was already on the team, but Seth Lugo's breaking ball and the dry air stuff that I don't think about, that as a nerd of sports, I always find interesting when I read that. So, Seth Lugo, keep an eye on how that curveball looks the next time he's out there. And that's my very brief nugget of the week.
My nugget is, where the hell is Freddie Freeman? Or Freddie Fermin, I should say.
I know where Freddie Freeman's at, man. He is not with the
pretty
Royals.
easily.
That would be a different combo.
Where is Freddie Fermin? I may have missed something, and I talked to you guys, and you guys don't know, or the other people that I know pay attention. Nobody knows where Freddie Fermin has been. He's only had 2 games played, the 25th and the 28th, and since then, we have not seen him. We all presumed, and everybody agreed, and JJ said that he was the backup catcher. Moving forward, they did sign Austin Nola on the 23rd. So part of me makes me wonder if that signing was kind of an alarm. Did Freddie come into camp with something that might be a little bit lingering, might be inhibiting a little bit, and they brought Nola in as they had talked to him prior to that, but brought him in as a priority type of signing because they needed the depth because they knew something was wrong with Freddie Fermin. So maybe I've missed something. It's totally possible, but nobody seems to be asking about him either, which is very strange. So I'd just like to know where he is and why we haven't seen him, and if there's something going on, what is it?
So mine is, we've referenced it a couple of times, the 30 clubs in 30 days thing that that MLB Network does. They were at Royals camp a couple of days ago. At the very end, after talking to some players and breaking down the roster, all that, a couple of guys kind of do an outlook for what this team is going to be this year. And donning a Royals jersey and cap, Yonder Alonso said the Royals are going to win the division. And I'm all for hope. I'm all for hope. I'm all for optimism. That's a little far-fetched. It just is. So here is my wish casting proposal here. If you really think you can go for it, and you think this division is winnable, do you say F it and give Blake Snell or Jordan Montgomery a 1 or 2 year deal at a high AAV and go F it? Let's go just do the damn thing.
If the Royals sign Blake Snell, I still don't think they win the division. However, if they sign
a hell of a
Blake
lot
Snell,
closer.
yes. However, and I don't want to spoil our win predictions yet, because I think in a couple weeks we're going to give that number. I have them reasonably off from winning the AL Central. However, AL Central's kind of ass. And it's, if you get Blake Snell and he can give you 3 or 4 more wins, you get closer, like George said. Yeah, and I'm just being conservative. It's like if he gives you 5 or 6 still.
Because think about this. Then your starting rotation is then just, let's play into
kind of
ball for a moment. If Cole Reagans, your 2-time Cy Young winner Blake Snell, Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer. Brady Singer might be your 5 in that rotation.
Yeah. That's sexy. I'm not going to lie. I'm not trying to, again, this is casting. This is not me saying this is what the Royals are going to do. But, I also find it interesting that there are more people that are not just hey, that's a really cool story that the Royals went out and signed signed these guys. That's
heard that before.
Hey, this team might actually do something. And people that cover the sport nationally are they're at least interesting.
Even if it's a trendy pick, that's still awesome. That's still so much better than what we've experienced lately.
The Royals won, by the way, on Tuesday night. So there is your parting shot from me. We're doing some shenanigans in the private chat of the streamer call. We've been going for just over an hour. I thank you boys for jumping on with me. We are going to talk prospects next week. We were going through whether we wanted to do that this week or flip-flop or whatever, but MLB Pipeline released their updated top 30 ahead of the 2024 season. Lots of good stuff in there. Not sure how we're going to fit a personal top 30 ranking for each of us into one podcast. It's probably going to be breaking stuff up and speeding through a lot and maybe not doing all 30, but either way, lots of prospect talk. We're going to cover whatever's been going on in spring training. Lots of stuff coming up. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
We're that much closer. We're 23 days from opening day now, so we're getting close, guys.
I cannot wait. Let's go. And we're pretty close to, we talked about potentially the schedule coming up, Jordan.
Yep.
We're entering StatCast territory because we play, they play against the Rockies twice in their stadium. And they are one of the two teams that have StatCast available. So on the 7th, they have StatCast available, and on the 12th, they'll have StatCast available. And then the following week is when we get like 3 televised games in that week.
Gotta love it. Gotta love baseball being back. Gotta love
there.
spring training. Gotta love you guys for watching on YouTube, listening on Apple, Spotify, whatever you're jumping on through. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you next week.